Nigerian journalist Kemi Omololu Olunloyo joins us. Kemi, tell me what you can about this man.
Before long, Captain allegedly Thunderpants was being profiled as though he was the subject of an E! True Life Stories special.
How did Umar Farouk Abdul Muttalab get so close to blowing up an airliner?
And what can we tell from browsing through his Facebook photos? Was he always into leaves? How much did he pay for this woolly hat?
One of the main things the news wanted to know is where he'd been radicalised, as though a change in your belief system is something you somehow catch instantly in one location, like a stomach bug.
Reporters diligently tracked down his past friends and mentors to ask whether he'd ever done anything to suggest he might one day try to blast his bollocks apart on a plane.
Mike Rimmer taught him history in West Africa and says he seemed supportive of the Taliban in class discussions.
Umar actually thought that their ideas were the correct interpretation of Islam. But I thought maybe, you know, in the class discussions, maybe he was just sort of playing devil's advocate to sort of keep the discussion going.
Oh, right, well, maybe this whole thing's just a big icebreaker.
We also got to look around the street where Umar Farouk Abdul Muttalab grew up.
The Abdul Muttalab family asked us not to film their house, and we respected their wish.
That's quite considerate of the BBC. I wonder if ITN will be similarly respectful.
Outside the home where the man who tried to blow up Flight 253 grew up.
Still, ITN didn't just film his parents' home, they also filmed their second home.
Omar Farouk's father and other members of the family are now at their second home in Abuja, another large and sprawling house with a domed mosque in the grounds.
What are you going to do next? Show us his primary school?
Farouk attended the Essence International School for his primary education. Even at this young age, he rarely mingled.
Perhaps most intrusive of all, we also got to peer at his underwear, which, to be honest, looked considerably cleaner than I was expecting. The unusual methodology was another gift for the news because it meant it could fill hours debating the proposed changes to airline security, complete with saucy footage of the much-vaunted full-body scanner.
The body scanner's raunchiness seemed to vary depending on whose footage you were watching.
For instance, in this stimulating sequence it looked downright titillating, whereas at other times it'd only be arousing if you were into chubby blue ghost porn.
Mind you, sometimes the body scanner didn't look sophisticated at all.
More like a Fisher-Price Cyberman detector.
Anyway, back to the suspect and his other great gift to the news networks, making Yemen interesting.
Most veteran current affairs junkies already knew Yemen was likely to be the next front in the war on terror, but those are hardcore news fans.
If you think of Yemen as an indie band, then the Pants Bomber story marks the moment where it had a breakthrough hit and went mainstream.
A lot of people are suddenly learning about Yemen for the first time.
The news now had an attention-grabbing narrative hook to get the casual viewer interested in the previously boring land of Yemen, a nation apparently twinned with the film Life of Brian. It reacted by running urgent info-packed mini-seminars on this newfound threat as though the viewer was the president in an episode of 24 receiving a critical security briefing.
It was almost as if the entire Yemeni nation had been wished into being overnight.
The news had a whole new land of fear and chaos. Jihadistan, Afghanistan too, Al-Qaeda on sea. Thing is, Yemen wasn't just new to many viewers, but many reporters too.
Across the way they're selling portraits of Saddam Hussein.
Saddam Hussein's good, he's poised.
Without much footage of their own from outside the capital, news networks relied heavily on images uploaded by Al-Qaeda themselves, and this can ramp up the fear factor considerably, as Al Jazeera soberly pointed out.
Most intelligence officials say there were only a few hundred active members in Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, so these videos act as almost like a force multiplier. They allow the group to portray itself as being much larger and much more influential than it actually is. So they're happy to get these images out there.
In short, it looks like 2010 might be Yemen's year in the spotlight.
It's the next big chapter in the news' favourite ongoing horror story. Don't have nightmares.
Obviously, there's nothing funny whatsoever about a man trying to blow up a plane, but there might be something poetic in it. Here's award-winning poet and shambles Tim Key.
The bad gentleman put some powder in his knickers and shuffled through security. Once in his seat, the bad gentleman watched a film. It was the one about Edith Piaf. Not a bad film. But he couldn't really get into it because it had subtitles and because he kept on thinking about the fact that he had to blow his dick up. Then he speculated how angry the gaffer would be if he came home without an exploded plane load of Westerners. In the end, he made a half-hearted attempt to make the plane go bang. But he screamed when his knob caught fire. And the brave Westerners jumped on him and twisted his arms behind his back and extinguished his privates. Well, when he landed, everyone treated him like shit. And it was excruciating when he did a piss. He felt like a right plum. That was the big Christmas. The one that was a story they brought out at Christmas this year.
In any given week, there are big stories, there are little stories, and then there's this sort of thing. This is the week in bullshit.
To you and me, it's simply a dip that goes well with pita bread. For the delicate relations in the Middle East, though, hummus might just be the perfect ingredient to bring people together.
Yes, 5 News diligently covered a valiant and uplifting attempt to bring peace to the Middle East as a community of Arabs and Jews work together as one to break the world record for the biggest dish of hummus ever.
4,090 kilograms of hummus.
The success of the bid will hopefully herald an era of 1,000 years of peace, which is about how long it will take them to eat all that stuff.
Next week, solving climate change with Tara Masalata.
Now here's American comic and alienated drunk Doug Stanhope with his view on fear in the US news media.
I'm Doug Stanhope, and that's why I drink. What is it that you're so afraid of, anyway? It's no secret to anybody that the news is just a constant battering ram of fear-mongering. If you want to be terrified, there's never-ending coverage that can make you scared shitless. Juvenile heart attacks. Could it be your child? Is someone masturbating in your sandwich at the local diner? You might not think so, but this horror movie graphic will change your mind. Can you get pig flu from pork chops? No. The calls are coming from inside the house!
Shots fired. Shots fired. 207.
You must get out of the house! Where's your teen right now? Probably getting the shit kicked out of him. You make me so pissed! People tend to blame the news as though it's their fault for spreading all this fear, as though there's no market for it. You can't blame the news for making you afraid any more than you would blame horror movies or haunted houses. That's what people are buying into, and the reason that people are buying fear so easily and stockpiling it is you'd much rather believe all that bullshit that, immigrants are trying to take your job and pedophiles are trying to fuck your kids and terrorists are coming to blow up your Ford Focus in particular. That's far more palatable for people to buy than to accept the reality, which is that probably a statistical high Vegas odds probability is that nothing of any significance will ever happen to you in your entire boring life. You're not going to win the lottery. You're not going to get caught in gang violence or school shootings. You're not going to get date raped. I know you put a napkin over your glass when you go out to have a cigarette so no one slips something in there and fucks you later. Wasn't going to happen anyway. Nothing's going to happen to you. You'll fall in love. They'll break your heart. Later on in life, you'll settle for less. They're not so much of a looker, not real high on the personality scale, but they're stable. You can make a family with them, and you'll push out rotten kids, and you'll get some awful job. You'll give up your dreams and sit in a cubicle. Maybe in your 50s, they'll find some lump in the back of your neck that they have to just cut out, and your daughter flies home from college in the Dakotas to be there by your side, but by then they found out it's benign. It's an outpatient procedure that you'll still bring up every Christmas dinner like it was some near-death experience. Before you carve the turkey, Mary, I just want to say, after my little scare with the neck thing, it made me reevaluate my entire life. And now I realize how much my family means to me. And just to have you all here, I know I get choked up every time I talk about this. Nothing ever happened to you. Stop milking it. Nothing ever happened in your whole boring life. So shut up, flip on the news, and carve the fucking turkey.
Don't know if you noticed, but we had a bit of weather recently.
Temperatures across the land plunged to Hollyoaks IQ level, and Nick Griffin's dream of an all-white Britain was finally realised.
The rolling networks covered it in much the same way they'd cover an alien invasion.
They rapidly dispatched journalists to all 18 corners of the nation, where they stood around looking cold and uncomfortable, a bit like hungry homeless people forlornly staring through the window of an upmarket restaurant at diners sitting indoors in the warmth.
You could be forgiven for thinking that snow was a brand new, never-before-seen phenomenon.
Sky helpfully explained where it came from for the benefit of Dimbo-Dumbos.
To have snow, the layers of the atmosphere below cloud level must be cold enough to keep the flakes from melting.
We were also shown that snow is a cold, white, watery powder which can, in large quantities, render roads impassable and make pavements more slippery than usual. Mainly, though, we learned that snow is a disloyal, deceitful substance responsible for causing conditions that can only be described as treacherous.
Treacherous conditions on the roads as even tractors battle with the ice.
The few cars that did brave it, the going was treacherous.
Minor roads continue to be treacherous ice.
Although it turned out snow wasn't the only thing capable of treachery when there was a brief distraction in the middle of the blizzard in the form of an attempted political coup.
Since most of Sky's other reporters were standing around the country gawping at snowflakes, Kay Burley herself shot down to Westminster disguised as a pearly queen.
But it was a false alarm. Gordon Brown remained in power and a humiliated Jeff Hume had to nod his way through impromptu bollockings from passing backbenchers to embarrassing effect on ITN.
Get on with doing your backbenches, Josh.
Okay. Good.
Having shot to the top of the news agenda, the coup quickly shrank back down. Meanwhile, back in the Kingdom of Narnia, the state of Britain's slippery pavements was providing bulletins with plenty of tittersome you've-been-framed style slapstick.
This spot in Bristol claimed 2 victims in very quick succession.
All they had to do was pop a camera next to an icy bit of pavement, hit record, sit back and let the hilarity commence.
It's still dangerous for Dublin pedestrians.
He's probably in hospital now. Slippery pavements were a huge concern for many journalists as they pandered to some of the moaniest people in Britain.
The pavement should be gritted like the roads. People leave their cars at home because they can't get off their drives and so forth and so on. They must be gritted like the roads.
Last year during a cold snap, the news largely contented itself with showing viewers snowy shenanigans.
There was still plenty of that this time, and very charming it was too, but overall the emphasis was firmly on the negative.
More schools are out now the snow puts A-levels and GCSE exams at risk. Record demand for gas and electricity strains supplies and pushes up prices. We explore how much the appalling weather will cost you.
Yes, to the miserable newsmongers, the snowfall was little more than a collection of new things to worry about.
They worried whether shopkeepers would run out of bread and pastries.
Last packet of croissants. Just got a few of the bits of normal Kingsmill stuff.
They worried whether their viewers knew how to defrost a frozen pipe.
Basically, once you locate the pipe, just turn the hairdryer on.
They even worried whether baboons could comprehend what was happening.
It's a shame we can't talk to the animals and tell them what all this cold, white stuff is.
No, it isn't.
Largely, though, they worried about the supply of grit.
We're in big problems with grit.
They were obsessed with the notion we might run out of grit, thereby killing everyone in Britain.
The news went live to every variety of gritting depot you could imagine.
There were boring gritting depots, dull gritting depots, tedious gritting depots, underwhelming gritting depots, undermanned gritting depots, manned gritting depots, indoor gritting depots, outdoor gritting depots, murky gritting depots, sexy gritting depots. Everywhere you looked, the news was taking it up the gritter. No wonder they lost all sense of perspective.
With more snow and ice forecast, is Britain sliding toward chaos?
While the reporters stood around looking miserable, concerned and serious, real people were having a laugh. They were frolicking, tumbling, sledging and arsing around in the background, precisely the sort of frivolity Alistair Stewart has no time for.
The bad weather has indeed brought great acts of humanity, but as you just saw, it's also been an excuse for spectacular stupidity.
With its doomy mantra of treacherous conditions, chaotic roads, perilous pavements, arctic winds and plummeting mercury, the news did its melodramatic best to turn the winter wonderland into a story of death from the skies.
It was a tale of woe, peril and treachery. The general public just weren't buying.
What about this travel chaos, the misery across Britain, snowbound Britain?
Doesn't matter, does it?
Anyway, that's all we've got time for this week. Good night.
Coming up, breaking major scandals and revealing dark secrets, all in the corridors of power. Rory Bremner is joined by Edwina Curry for a look at the perils of a political memoir, as Dear Diary concludes next.